Here's another wonderful description of a dream experience that I think many of us have that's from a very old work of literature, Homer's Iliad. So this is when Hector has gone outside of the city walls of Troy to meet Achilles, and Homer says, "As in a dream, a man chasing another cannot catch him, nor can he in flight escape from his pursuer, so Achilles could not by his swiftness overtake him, nor could Hector pull away." So this is a very powerful image where you may have had a dream in which you're being chased. This actually turns out to be a common dream theme, being chased in a dream. If you do content analysis of dreams, many people have dreams like this. So you're being chased, and there's this feeling that you can't get away from the one who's pursuing you, but they're not overtaking you either. So Homer is using this to depict this situation of the battle that's going to ensue between Hector and Achilles. Now, if you think about this description, or what it might be like for you to have a dream like that, there's two ways in which the dream might be structured experientially. On the one hand, you might feel yourself in the dream, so you're experiencing the dream world through your own eyes, and you're running and you're looking back over your shoulder, and you have this sense that you're being pursued. So that's a kind of first-person perspective in the dream. But you may have had dreams in which you see yourself from the outside in the dream. So there's an image in the dream. So in the case of a dream where you're being chased, you might first experience it where you're in the first-person perspective and you turn around, but then it might shift, and it's as if you're sort of hovering in the dream world, looking down and, oh, I'm being chased, and you see yourself from the outside. So this is a difference between a third-person and a first-person perspective that indicates the complexity of self-experience in the dream. The dream is nothing but a content of one's awareness, but in it you mark a difference between self and not self, but then that can complexify where one aspect of self is this observer, and the other aspect is the image you see of yourself that you say, oh, that's me, or you think, oh, that's me. Now, interestingly, exactly the same thing happens in memory. So if I were to ask you to imagine your first thought when you woke up this morning, and now I ask you, what were you wearing when you first woke up this morning? Now, it might not have been this way for you, but when we ask questions like that, the memory tends to be biased, and there's scientific evidence supporting this. So if I ask you what you were thinking or how you felt, the memory will tend to be in the first-person perspective. And psychologists call that a field memory. It's as if you're back in the bed and you're kind of reenacting or reliving the situation. But if I ask you something factual, like what were you wearing, or what color were the sheets, or how many pictures are on the wall in your bedroom, you might have the outside perspective, which psychologists call observer memory. It's as if you're sort of hovering somewhere in the scene and you see yourself in the bed and, oh, I was wearing a white t-shirt or whatever. So the same thing happens in dreams as happens in memory. So there's a linkage then between dreams and memory, which is a very old idea, where that structure of first-person inward experience versus an outside perspective, even though it's all your own awareness, happens in both cases. So the sense of the self in the dream state then, in its fullest description, would actually require us also to say, well, on the one hand, there's the self as dreamer. That's you lying asleep in the bed. But then there's the self as dreamed. We could call that the dream ego, in which you might be experiencing it from within, from the first-person perspective, or from an outside observer perspective. And I'm setting it up in this way because when we come to lucid dreaming, we'll see that, of course, this gets even more complex. So lucid dreaming, then. So this is another...
You're in the dream and self as a dreamer.
Right. So the person who's dreaming is you in the bed, but then there's whoever you are in the dream that you're having, however you are in the dream. That's the dream ego. So
you're part of it.
Exactly. So in lucid dream, so this painting is called Dream Signs, and I imagine many of you are familiar with Stephen LaBerge's work on lucid dreaming, where he's not the only one to talk about this, of course, others do. Well, one of the ideas is that you might, in a dream, if you've trained yourself to do this in waking life, if something that involves writing or a sign appears in the dream, you take note of it, and then you look away, and then you look back, and very likely it's changed. Whereas in the waking state, you look at a stop sign, you look away, you look back. It's a stop sign in the dream. This is not surefire, but in a dream, often if you look and then look away and look back, and it'll be different. And if you can notice that difference, then that can be a sign, oh, I must be dreaming. So it's one of the kind of techniques that's used to teach yourself how to lucid dream. Okay, so lucid dreaming. So this is a topic that's become increasingly popular, and many people think, well, lucid dreaming means being able to control the dream. You have a dream and you can control it. You know that you're dreaming and you can control the dream. And that's not really how I think of lucid dreaming in a more precise sense. For me, the mark of a lucid dream is not whether you try to control it or not, because some things are going to stay out of control, and you might not choose to try to control anything. The mark of a lucid dream is you can direct your attention to the experience as a dream. That is to say, you can direct your attention to the dreamlike quality of the state. Now, sometimes that might involve having the full-blown thought, oh, I'm dreaming. But other times, not necessarily. There's degrees of lucidity. So you might have an experience in which there's a kind of feeling of insight that this is dreamlike, and the experience presents in a dreamlike way, and you attend to it in that way without necessarily full-blown thinking, oh, I'm having a dream. So it's important that lucid dreaming isn't one thing. There's a whole range of possibilities. Or you might have an experience in which you're lying in bed, you know it's a dream, you think it's a dream, you remember other lucid dreams you have, you might decide to try to experiment, or you might decide just to sort of let it unfold. There are all different kinds of possibilities. But typically, lucid dreams involve features like greater clarity or vividness, the subjective experience of things being clearer or more vivid, a kind of realism. Things sometimes take on a hyper-real quality in a lucid dream. There's a sense often of emotional exhilaration or a sense of freedom. Often the realization that it's a dream is just there's something exhilarating about it that's very hard to describe. But if you've had the sensation, then of course you know what it's like. So now the sense of self in the lucid dream state complexifies the discussion that we've been having so far, because on the one hand, there's the self as dreamer. So you might, in a full-blown lucid dream, think, I'm dreaming, this is a dream, so you know you're asleep. And you have meta-awareness of the dream state, so you're aware of the state as a dream state. The current contents of your consciousness are dream images. But then there's however you are in the dream ego, the self as dreamed. And maybe it's a flying dream, and you think, I'm flying. So of course you're not really flying, or let's not be too prejudicial here with the word really. The one who's asleep in the bed is not flying because he or she is asleep in the bed, but the one in the dream is flying. So the pronoun I is picking out two different aspects of the total situation. And you might even have a situation in which you know it's a dream, and you know you're asleep in the bed, and you're observing some situation from the outside in which some aspect of what your image is, you identify as you.